The heart surgeon they disowned. The night my father needed a new heart, he signed the consent form without knowing his daughter would be the one holding the scalpel. But before I tell you how a man who erased me from his life ended up trusting me with his, pause for a second. Ask yourself, if the people who abandoned you needed you to survive, would you answer the call? Now let me take you back 7 years. I grew up in Savannah, Georgia. In our house, my older brother Daniel was the golden child, star quarterback, class president, the son my father bragged about at Rotary Club dinners. And me? I was the quiet one with a stethoscope toy at age 5 and a stack of medical journals by 16. When I got into Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, my acceptance letter sat on the kitchen counter for 3 hours before my father glanced at it and said, "That's expensive." But when Daniel got a partial football scholarship to a mid-tier university, we had a catered celebration. Still, I left for Baltimore determined to earn a place in their hearts. 3rd year of med school, Daniel got arrested. DUI cocaine possession. My parents called me at 2 a.m. begging for help. I wired them my savings, helped hire an attorney, took an extra shift at the hospital to cover my tuition. Daniel blamed me. He told our parents I was using the situation to look superior, that I'd told his lawyer about past drug use to make him look worse. It was a lie. But my parents believed him. They stopped answering my calls, removed me from the family group chat, didn't attend my graduation. For 6 years, I was no one's daughter. I became a cardiothoracic surgeon in Chicago, built a life brick by brick. Then one Tuesday at 2:14 a.m., my pager went off. Emergency transplant, male 63, severe cardiomyopathy. I opened the chart, Thomas Avery, my father, I scrubbed in. And when the OR doors opened, my mother saw the name stitched on my surgical cap, Dr. Eleanor Avery. Her grip on the waiting room chair was so tight her knuckles went white. The surgery lasted 6 hours. Every incision steady, every suture precise, every heartbeat restored. When I walked into recovery, my father's chest rose and fell because of me. He opened his eyes 12 hours later, and the first thing he whispered wasn't "thank you." It was, "You came." I looked at him for a long moment. I never left. The words didn't come out angry. They didn't come out soft either. They came out steady, the way a surgeon's hands must be. My father lay there, pale against the hospital sheets, a fresh scar running down the center of his chest. The ventilator hissed softly beside him. Monitors blinked in rhythmic green. For 6 years, he had lived without me. For 12 hours, he had lived because of me. His eyes searched my face like he was trying to find a version of me that still fit his memory. The awkward teenager at the dinner table, the girl he dismissed, the daughter he let go of too easily. But that girl was gone. In her place stood Dr. Eleanor Avery, chief cardiothoracic surgeon at Mercy Lakes Medical Center in Chicago. My mother stood in the doorway. She hadn't stepped fully into the room yet, almost like she didn't feel she had the right. "Eleanor," she whispered. It sounded unfamiliar, my name and her voice after all these years. I checked my father's chart calmly, blood pressure stabilizing, new heart responding beautifully. "He'll need to stay in ICU for 48 hours, I said clinically. Rejection markers look good so far. Professional, controlled, because if I let the daughter speak, she would break. My father swallowed. "I didn't know," he said. That sentence could have meant 100 things. I didn't know you were here. I didn't know you were this good. I didn't know I was wrong. I met his eyes. "You didn't ask." Silence. Machines filled the space where apologies should have lived. The truth they never checked. 2 days later, he was stable enough for longer conversations. My brother Daniel arrived that afternoon. Older, heavier, the shine gone from the golden boy. When he saw me in the hallway, he froze. "You're the surgeon?" "Yes." He let out a breath that almost sounded like a laugh. "Of course you are." There was something different in him now, not arrogance, regret. We sat in the small family consultation room, the same kind of room where I had once delivered life-changing news to strangers. Now it was my turn to sit on the other side. "I never told them that," Daniel said quietly. "Told them what?" "That you sabotaged my case." I studied his face carefully. "They said you did," I replied. He shook his head. "I told them you helped. Dad didn't want to believe it. It didn't fit." Didn't fit. That was the story of my life. If I was quiet, I was distant. If I was ambitious, I was cold. If I succeeded, I must have manipulated it. My mother began crying softly. "We thought you were ashamed of us," she said. I stared at her. "You blocked my number." Her face crumpled. We thought you blocked ours first. The room tilted slightly. What? Daniel looked up sharply. Dad changed numbers after my arrest, he said slowly. He said he didn't want reporters getting through. Ice ran through my veins. Did you ever get my emails? I asked. Blank faces. Letters? Nothing. 6 years. 6 years of silence built on a technical lie. My father had changed the phone plan, filtered emails, convinced himself I had cut them off, because believing that was easier than believing he had misjudged me. The scar beneath the scar. That night, I stood alone in the surgical observation gallery looking down at an empty operating room, the same room where I had held my father's heart in my hands. There is something surreal about holding the organ of a man who once held authority over you. His heart was smaller than I expected, human, fragile, flawed, just like him. Nathan called from home. How are you holding up? He asked. I saved his life, I said quietly. Yes. I don't know if that fixed anything. It wasn't your job to fix anything, he replied. It was your job to operate. He was right, but part of me had hoped the surgery would be symbolic. Clean incision, remove damaged heart, replace with something better. If only family trauma worked that way. The confession. On the 4th day post-op, my father asked to speak to me alone. My mother and Daniel stepped out. The room felt smaller without machines dominating the air. I read your file, he said. What file? Your hospital profile. They sent it with the transplant approval paperwork. He swallowed. You've published research. You teach residents. They respect you. Yes. His jaw tightened. I was wrong. There it was. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just a simple, reluctant admission. I let my pride decide who you were, he continued. When Daniel fell, I needed someone to blame. So you chose me? Yes. The honesty was sharp, painful, real. I thought you were trying to prove you were better than us, he said. I was trying to prove I was enough, I answered. That landed. He closed his eyes briefly. I don't expect forgiveness. Good. Because forgiveness isn't owed just because someone is ill. I came because I'm a doctor, I said calmly, not because I forgot. He nodded. I know. The question. 2 weeks later, he was discharged. Rehabilitation would take months. Before they left Chicago, my mother asked something quietly at the hospital entrance. Can we call you? 6 simple words, 6 years too late. I looked at her for a long moment. If you're calling to listen, I said, yes. Because that's what had been missing, not love, listening. Daniel hugged me awkwardly before getting into the car. Thank you, he said. For what? For not becoming what they said you were. I watched their car pull away. I expected closure. Instead, I felt something else. Peace. Not because everything was fixed, but because I finally understood something. I had never actually wanted revenge. I had wanted recognition, and I didn't need it anymore. 1 year later. My father sends articles now, medical breakthroughs, heart transplant survival rates. He signs his emails. Proud of you. It's awkward, unpolished, real. We are not magically close. We are not the picture-perfect family, but we are trying. And sometimes trying is braver than pretending. If you're still listening to this story, ask yourself something honestly. If they called you tomorrow, not because they deserved it, but because you had the power to save them, would you answer? Because sometimes strength isn't in walking away, it's in showing up and knowing you don't need their approval anymore. For a moment, he just stared at me, like he was trying to understand how the quiet daughter he once dismissed was now the reason his chest was rising and falling. The machines hummed steadily. The new heart inside him beat strong. My mother stepped closer to the bed. Her voice trembled. We thought you cut us off, she whispered. I didn't react immediately. You blocked my number, I said calmly. You never answered my emails. My father frowned. You never called. I called 14 times the week Daniel was arrested. Silence. Daniel, who had been standing near the window, shifted uncomfortably. Dad changed his number that year, he said quietly. He thought reporters were trying to reach us. He filtered unknown emails, too. My father looked stunned. For 6 years, both sides had believed the other walked away, and neither had checked twice. He swallowed hard. I thought you were ashamed of us, he said. After what happened with Daniel, I thought you didn't want to be connected. I sent money, I replied. I helped hire his lawyer. Daniel lowered his head. She did. The truth settled heavily in the room. Not dramatic, not explosive, just painfully simple. And in that quiet hospital room with a new heart beating steadily in his chest, I finally understood something.